So in this video, I'll be just discussing a very quick topic that uh, I just want to share with you guys, to those viewers that are still watching my video, even after so many months of not uploading content. But that's besides the point, because again, as I mentioned, this would be a very short topic that I'll be discussing, in which I'll be sharing some of the unconventional exercises that I personally do that gives you um, great results, great gains, and these are my top 10 list of unconventional exercises that gives you inevitable gains. Starting off with back extensions. I don't know, not a single person on the gym that I'm going to, or even some of the gyms that I used to walk by, they don't have uh, the kind of specific type of equipment or machine that is specifically used for back extensions. In my case, I actually rotate it with some of the other hip hinges. Again, not a lot of gyms, most especially some of the commercial gyms here in my country, don't have the luxury of having that type of equipment or machine, let alone a GHD machine setup, and which I also use it as a rotation on some of my main hip hinge movements, i.e. my deadlifts, my good mornings, whether it be on a Smith machine, free weights whatsoever. So a very good thing with the back extension itself is it's also, you can also, in a way, it's kind of like a deadlift. Either you want to target your a part of your posterior chain, could be your glutes and hamstrings, or either your lower back and some part of your upper back, like your meaty traps. Because as we all know, deadlifts are also notorious for building huge upper backs. But in my case, I think which is also the same case when I do back extensions. Either I do it in a method where I target my hamstrings, my glutes, or I target my upper back, which is specifically my traps, rhomboids, and so on and so forth. The good meaty part of your upper back. The limiting factor, the only limiting factor with the back extension is, of course, your grip. So I think I recommend, either if you want to go light, do a lot of volume, do a lot of sets and reps, or if you want to go heavy, use wrist wraps. The second unconventional exercise that I do to give you exponential and inevitable gains is the behind the neck pull up. Most specifically, the behind the neck wide grip pull ups. And I know some of you optimal bros, the optimal side of the fitness community on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube whatsoever, you like to pinpoint that doing behind the neck exercises are very bad, most especially for your rotator cuffs and your shoulders in general. But in my personal experience, I've dealt with more rotator cuff and shoulder discomfort with just doing your normal, not behind the neck or anything in the front. And in this case, I experienced a lot of overused injuries, most especially with doing normal wide grip pull-ups. So I adapted. I rotated the normal wide grip pull-ups with behind the neck wide grip pull-ups as a courtesy to Alex Leonidas, and I think Coach Paris Butler, aka Bold Omni-Man. They recommended doing this Jason Statham mode or Jason Statham version, in which if you are not that mobile enough in this specific type of exercise variation, you can do you can just bang out some half reps, but as you progress you actually have to become as mobile as you can, in which it also helps with the it will also help in regards to your shoulder health, your shoulder mobility, stability, and flexibility, and of course some of those teres major gains, in which it also because the teres major actually contributes with the wider V taper look from the front and the back, and most especially from the front, because having a wide back, doing a lat pose up front is actually very difficult, especially if you have very underdeveloped teres majors, let alone your latissimus dorsi. Then the third unconventional exercise that gave me exponential gains is, of course, the Klokov Press, or in simple terms, it's just another behind the neck exercises in which it is behind the neck overhead press. Again, I know some influencers are more likely to tell you that behind the neck exercises are very dangerous, especially for your shoulders. And again, in my personal experience, a specific exercise is only dangerous if you do it with no safety and no precautions. If your ego got in the way, I mean, you load up plates with no warm-up whatsoever, that is when an exercise variation becomes dangerous. I mean, a bench press is just as dangerous. A barbell squat is just as dangerous, right? Many people have died squatting heavy loads of weights under the squat rack, and nobody seems to bat an eye. But when a certain individual does a behind the neck exercise, then everybody is suddenly panicking whatsoever. But that's besides the point, because Klokov Press, again, as a courtesy to Alex Leonidas, he gave me the idea and convinced me in actually doing some of these quote-unquote very dangerous exercises. Well, just because influencers, I know you're probably thinking of some, but I'm not gonna name them, that doing this would inevitably damage or destroy your rotator cuffs. But again, in my personal experience, I have been experiencing more damage or obvious injuries in doing conventional exercises. Again, in my case, doing lots of dips, normal dips and normal pull-ups did more damage with my shoulders, most especially with my left. I've been experiencing up until now some certain impingement and discomfort, but again, that's not an excuse to not train. And what I did is train around it. I trained around the discomfort and the uneasiness that I feel every now and then. So the fourth conventional exercises that I do is the weighted decline sit-ups. I labeled it as unconventional because not a lot of guys, like both young and old individuals at the gym, do this exercise anymore, let alone ab exercises, most especially weighted or the calisthenics versions of ab exercises. But doing weighted decline sit-ups not only gives you more variations to rotate from in every single week, but it also helped me in strengthening my weak lower back, in which is in my case my fault because I never did a lot of ab isolations during the lockdown. I never did a lot of hip hinges, thus I got a weak trunk, I got a weak torso, a mid torso, and overall a weak core. So I most definitely recommend doing weighted decline sit-ups as a rotation on doing cable crunches, because I mostly do this weighted decline sit-ups. Again, a reminder that you should plan this out all accordingly, because doing weighted decline sit-ups in the same day as doing heavy hip hinges actually fatigues you very much, and it can be a root cause for certain impingements, muscle strains, and risky scenarios, injuries, career-ending injuries whatsoever. The fifth one would be towel wrist rotations again. And I mean, ever since the rise of the sport of arm wrestling, the fame and notoriety of doing wrist exercises has risen up, if that's the right word to say. But point being, towel wrist rotations, I rarely see another individual besides me doing it at the gym as a rotation with the normal dumbbell wrist curls on the barbell, or using barbells, dumbbells, and even the cable machines, Samsolic style. Not only is it in a way doing wrist curls on one movement or one dimension, I just like the fact that moving the wrist in a certain pattern that a barbell or dumbbell cannot replicate. Although you can do it with a dumbbell, doing it with a towel or a weight plate wrapped with a towel actually feels very good to me, most especially with, again, my wrist and my forearm muscles. Then next would be cable upright rows. I'm actually officially done with doing upright rows with free weights, barbells, and dumbbells alike, and I actually like the sensation and the stimulus that the cable provides whenever I do upright rows. So again, some influencers would tell you, again, it would impinge, destroy, or even injure your shoulders and rotator cuffs, but in my case, that's not actually true, and it's been debunked for many years with multiple studies. And why not just try it out? And if it doesn't work for you, that's fine. You can just find another rotation or exercise variation that would work for you. Then next would be Helms rows, because again, if your main goal with doing rows is to get a juicier and a more thicker upper back, especially when viewed at the front side, getting that Ninja Turtle action, that bulldog action from the front, side, and back, then I think doing Helms rows with the assistance of an incline bench to minimize the fatigue on your lower back. As we all know, a row is technically a hip hinge per se, so there's a lot of lower back involvement to stabilize you whenever you do or perform a rep of a row variation. And in my case, Helms rows, whether it be with an easy bar, straight bar, or with dumbbells, I actually prefer it that way, so I can actually easily target and get the stimulus that I want in a specific exercise, and to specifically target my target muscles, which is the lats and sometimes the lower back. No, the upper back, the traps, rear delts, even rhomboids. If I'm doing stretch based, or if I'm going near failure whenever I'm doing Helms rows, in which is also the advantage of using a bench, because you can actually get near failure without actually hurting or injuring yourself. Hammer curls. Again, it's not that unconventional. I mean, old school greats from the silver and the gold era of bodybuilding. Hammer curls is a staple in doing, or especially in a bro day, in growing your arms, most specifically targeting your brachialis, in which it actually contributes with the width and the thickening look, the thick look when your arms are viewed on the or in the frontal view, and I think even in the side view. And it actually complements on how big your triceps will look, and thus giving you the illusion that your arms are actually big. So doing hammer curls, whether it could be standing, sitting, on an incline, or even in a cable, just do it. Not only targets your brachialis, a small part of your biceps are actually targeted as well, and of course your brachioradialis. I mean, you can never go wrong with having bigger forearms if your goal is bodybuilding or other type of sports that requires forearm grip strength, endurance, whatsoever. Then tibialis raises. It's kind of funny because people give me the weird looks whenever I do tibialis raises with a kettlebell, because they always ask me what type of exercise am I doing, and I specifically pinpoint my tibialis muscle, in which I actually tell them it's actually just as beneficial in doing calf raises. I mean, let alone people neglect their calves. Nobody does calves, or there's just a minority, those who compete, those who compete, whether in bodybuilding or in sports. They want to strengthen their whole upper body to prevent injuries. I mean, you've seen videos of guys tearing their Achilles tendon, and I don't want that. Although I'm not that competitive in terms of bodybuilding and sports, I mean, I can also never go wrong with having huge calves and huge tibialis, especially when flex. And then the last would be neck exercises. I mean, I'm actually the only one who does neck exercises, whether it can be doing it with neck curls, neck extensions, with plates, cables, whatsoever. I mean, that's what you actually call an unconventional exercise, but I mean, it actually adds with the look. I mean, having a neck that actually co-aligns with your jawline actually gives you the illusion that you're jacked. I mean, it gives the signal that you actually lift. I mean, look at wrestlers, look at professional strongmen, Olympic weightlifters. They not only that they have huge traps, they actually have huge necks. And the common counter argument of some of the so-called pencil necks is that having a big neck actually gives you sleep apnea, and I used to believe that, and I almost quit doing neck exercises until giving the sense that people who experience sleep apnea most of the time are overweight individuals. Uh, my goal is to build muscle, not actually accumulate a lot of body fat on my neck, most especially my neck, because again, sleep is important. It helps you in aid in recovery. So, doing neck gains until the day I die. So that will be it. Thank you for watching and have a good day.